Alrighty.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
It's Lorina and Kimmie again. We're doing another video, so I think you'll like this one. Yeah, who wants to go first? Do you want to
Um,
introduce the subjects or shall I? Doesn't matter.
I'll let you do it. I always
Okay,
leave the other handle. I take
okay.
over.
All right. So today we're going to talk about spirit circles, in development of mediumship. Typically, it's also psychic abilities. And then we're also going to talk about keys, the cities. What are our spiritual powers, basically, is what we're going to be talking about. So, really cool stuff. Anyway, and one kind of leads into the other. So, spirit circles, why do we have them? I have sat in spirit circles before, and I'm sure you have too. Have you?
Yes. But we sit in one regularly. Well, we haven't in a few weeks, but
Yeah.
that's a spirit circle, right? What we do?
Sometimes.
Okay. It's like a loosely formed
Yes.
one. Okay.
Sometimes it's just a catch up.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But typically, if you study spiritualism, a spirit circle is where you sit to to start with kind of opening prayer or meditation kind of thing, and then you open up to spirit, and so it's where you connect to spirit in the in again the spiritualist church. When they say spirit, that's like they really mean the divine, but they don't say it. They call it spirit for some reason, and then at some point you connect to spirits, more than one, and it's developing those powers is what you're doing, is learning how to do that. And so in a circle where everybody's got the same goal as far as connecting to yourself, connecting to spirit, and then connecting to spirit so that you can communicate with spirits, also higher beings, your higher self, your guides. They have a lot of, like, they call them the spirit chemists, the
Whoa.
spirit healers. There's a lot of different things that they connect with when they do this kind of work. And I certainly have done all that stuff. And I say they, but I've done it too. So I'm very
Okay.
itchy. Sorry.
Spirit.
It must be spirit. I'm getting messages. Yeah. Anyway, and so part of the reason why you do this, oh, segues. There's also, they do in spiritualist churches, do something that they call sitting in the power. And if you study with, say, like James von Prague and these guys, they always talk about sitting in the power. Sitting in the power is where it's like meditation, but they say that it is not meditation. Meditation can be many different things to different people, but sitting in the power, excuse me, is first what you're doing is you're being quiet and shutting down the outside noise, and you're feeling where you are. And they can spend months just sitting in the power in a
Really?
circle, and you can do it in a circle and you can do it at home. Oh, yeah, months where what you're doing is you're learning where you are. You're
Okay.
connecting to yourself and feeling where you are. So that at some point, when you start connecting with spirit, source, and then other spirits, that you know the difference. So, really, it's a way of getting to know yourself in a really quiet way. Because in modern society, we don't spend much time doing that, just
Right.
feeling who you are and taking time to do that. So, that's part of what sitting in the power is. First of all, feeling where you are, becoming really familiar with that, and then connecting to source. So, and then feeling the difference, and then sitting in a development circle, you're differentiating between all of these things, who you are, who source is, and what that feels like, and then what these spirits feel like when they come in, like your guides or your higher self or all of these things. That's what's happening. Do you have anything to say about that or to add?
No, I guess I was like, you said they could sit for months, but they're just like practicing. Like sometimes they sit in a circle and then sometimes it's just at home where they intend, like they're not sitting in a circle for months, right?
They
Like an
can be
actual.
in some circles, if you're a
Really?
beginner, this is more in the UK than here. People don't have much patience anymore, but so I don't know how they're doing it now, but you could not say anything for a year. You're just sitting there.
Oh, got you. Okay, so you're not reading, you're just staying with the energy, the messages, connections.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So you have to be quiet.
Mm,
So it's I think people are just so impatient now that nobody would actually do that. Like if
yeah.
you were in a class, you were starting a development circle in a class, you wouldn't let people talk. Oh, people would not come. It's like,
You're right,
what's
because
the
everybody in
deal?
this culture wants to flap their lips, but
Yeah. Oh, and people just don't have the same kind of patience that they used to have to really sit and develop something. People want immediate results. And I understand
I
that.
remember
Yeah.
when I was younger and I first started out taking some mediumship classes,
Mhm.
like, we're talking, like, when I was 23 or 24, so we're looking 25 years ago, but I remember asking the woman who was this amazing medium in Chicago, I asked her that question. I said, "How long?" She goes, "I sat with my teachers for 5 years."
Mhm.
And then I think she started out maybe going into platform,
Mhm.
like at the spiritual isn't that where like, they group read first, and then they would, like, put her out there, and they said, "Okay, you can start giving messages now
And
after 5 years."
yeah. And platform is standing in front of a group and giving
Yeah.
readings. It's not a circle. And you can stand in a circle and give readings. But there's something about the audience. If there's a group of people and you're standing in front of them and all their attention is on you, and there is something because I've done platform, not a lot to be
Yeah.
honest, because I still get nervous about doing platform mediumship, but something happens when you do platform work where it's almost like the energy is helping you, like
Oh,
with all that attention. It's something happens when you do that. It's like, boom, oh, okay, I'm getting stuff. There's something about that dynamic where you just get stuff because you're standing in front of a crowd of people. It's pretty amazing. But you've spent a lot of time developing to get to that point.
yeah.
First of all, so you're not nervous,
Yeah.
because that's a big thing. But also, there's something about sitting in a circle where you are developing, and usually a circle is a dark circle where there is the lights are not on and there's no music. It's quiet, and you open the room, and what happens while you're sitting in the circle, and it usually you really want to do it with a group of people that you've been working with for a long time, because what happens is you're building this energy to bring in those spirits, and it's almost like this space will contain that energy. I've sat in rooms where they continually do that, and that was here in Phoenix. That place
Yeah.
is no longer there, but there's an energy that's contained there, and this is like a small room with no windows, just a door, and it holds that energy so that it builds, and so more and
Like
more
a vortex?
what? Like a vortex. Yeah,
Like a
you can
vortex?
think of it like that. So it builds up this energy, so more and more phenomenon happens there. Phenomena happens there, like lights, spirit lights, where they do voice, where you can hear voices coming through. There's a like the when you consider like the ectoplasm thing, the more you sit in that place, the more spirit phenomena you're going to have, where you can see hands popping in, where where direct voice, where people, it's not even channeling. It's like you hear voices coming through. You'll start
Like the
seeing things.
trumpet?
Yeah, like the trumpet. Yeah. But sometimes you don't need a trumpet. Things will just
Oh,
happen. Or levitation, which is, when we're going to get into levitation.
yeah.
Things like that, wild things where you can where healings take place. That's where, when we talk about spirit chemists or spirit doctors, where sometimes you can see hands come through and do things. I mean, I've done energy healing where I see hands come through and pull stuff out.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
it's the same phenomena, but it helps to have that contained energy. And if you have that same group, it builds that energy because there's a lot of trust in that energy. Because if a new energy
Yeah.
comes in, or like as in a new person, that energy can be disrupted because of that new person, unless somehow that person is just really in sync with that energy. So it's just a
Mm.
really interesting phenomenon that can happen in spirit circles. And if you investigate like spirit circles and phenomena happening, there's a lot of stuff out there that's really quite interesting that did start happening, especially in the UK, around having a spirit circle and really interesting, some of it very wild stuff happening because you're building that energy in a spirit circle. Now, all of this stuff is harder to do over Zoom. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
not the
yeah.
same.
That's
And it
yeah.
doesn't mean that things won't happen over over
Remote.
remotely, because things happen remotely too, but it's very different than what we're talking about right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is worth cultivating and trying to find a group that you can meet where you do this kind of work. But it has to be people who are not afraid. You can't
Mhm.
have a lot of fear. Fear gets in the way of this energy, and oh, excuse me, and you have to be really open. It's a big part of it. I'm gonna drink some water now.
Yeah, I've been privy to just a few, not like in circle, but like a few physical phenomena, and I gotta
Uh-huh.
admit, because it goes against your normal barometer, like, parameters of reality, and then when you
Mhm.
see those things, you can be, like, so scared that it shuts stuff down.
It will shut everything down. Fear will shut it down right away. Absolutely. Unfortunately, because a lot of people are afraid.
Yeah.
And it's natural until you start seeing a lot of things. If you investigate something called the skull experiments, it's SCOLE, the skull experiments. It is a
Okay.
really interesting. I have a book on it. There's a lot of YouTube videos. This guy and his wife opened up, they did a spirit circle. Two of the mediums were very developed mediums, and the other two were mediums too, but not as developed as these two other people were. And they had so much phenomenon happening in the spirit circle. It was crazy. But they met, the skull is a place, SCOLE, that is a place
Okay.
in England and they in the UK. They would meet in a small room down in a basement that held that energy. They met twice a week, which who has that kind of patience twice a week, that kind of dedication to create that kind of phenomenon to happen. And if you investigate the phenomenon that happened in this group, it is wild and it's worth
Wow.
investigating and looking up. It's really fun. Some people might think it's scary. And they did start traveling around at some point. And they did it with this table in the middle. And there were some crystals on the table in a very specific pattern.
Yeah.
But for 2 years, they did it for 2 years before anything happened. Okay, who has that kind of patience? These days, that is a lot of, again, a lot of dedication. But stuff wild, like instant healings, like blue lights would show up and go through people's bodies. They'd see it disappear and come out a different part of their body and they would be healed. I mean, just phenomenal stuff. It's worth it. There's some wild stuff. And this is all the older mediums who really dedicated a lot of their time in their life to this stuff. It's beyond just talking to dead people, which is cool too.
Yeah.
That's, I think most people get into mediumship. That's what they want to do is talk to dead people
And give messages,
and give
yeah.
messages. And it's me trying to be funny. I talk to dead people, but that's just me trying to be funny and make light of it. But really, it's talking to our loved ones who are on the other side, who people want to connect with that. There's a need for that. And there is a healing around that too. Very much so. Just want to, anyway. So you said you saw some wild stuff?
Well, I mean, I just like not, but not with the intention of trying to like create it. I mean, just like I used to live in this. I guess it's more like a haunted house, and like I shared a bedroom with my roommate. There was like 5 girls in this big house,
Mhm,
and I remember like us sitting there talking, and like it happened like 2 or 3 times, and like
mhm,
something being knocked off of
mhm.
our dresser and going flying across, like this little knickknack would just fly across the room. And like one time she wasn't there, 'cause she was at her boyfriend's or something, and I used to like lock the door because the girls would go in and out, and so I used to lock my bedroom door, and knowing I fell asleep with the light off, waking up,
Oh,
but
uh-huh,
like that kind of stuff, more of those physical phenomena stuff,
mhm. Yeah,
which just was like freak me out because it's like I can handle. It's like I can handle like feeling things or seeing things, but like when things actually transpire in the physical, like that's a lot for me.
yeah, I understand. Yeah, I've seen tables move and all sorts of I think we talked about those,
Yeah.
the table tipping
Tipping.
where you're following a table around running after it. That's wild. I mean, and unusual. Yeah. What else have I seen? Yeah, I've seen hands come through and pull stuff out of people's bodies. I've seen lights turn on and off. I've had my doors close by themselves, and once it was really hard to open it, and I'm like, "What? Come on." That's in my apartment now. That was recent. I'm like, "Come on, don't mess with me." It's
Yeah.
uh,
I guess if
anyway.
that stuff's like normal and you're like you're brought up in like, oh, these things are just normal interactions in
Uh-huh,
nature or whatever. There's this video I came across on Instagram. I have a friend who was initiated into Santeria.
uh-huh.
And anyways, sometimes I'll see videos that he will post,
Mhm.
and it's stuff that's like happening in West Africa, like which is normal part of their cultures with their rituals. And they were drumming and singing to this flat table, right? It was
Uh-huh.
flat on the ground, no legs. Like it was just like it had fabric. I mean, it must have been like this thick, right?
Yeah,
On the ground.
on
And
the
they're
ground,
singing
like, no leg.
all these yeah,
Yeah.
no legs. I wish I could find the video and we could watch it, but
Yeah, that'd be fun.
and they were singing and drumming and it's slowly starting to rise, right? And
Oh,
like
wow. Mhm.
and they're singing the song, I think it's to Elegwa, who is like the Orisha of the doors and the paths. He opens the pathways.
Yeah.
He's really big. He's a real big deity in their religion. And then you're watching this video, and all of a sudden, this thing, it's because it's fabric with a tabletop, goes from 2 inches on the ground to like 10 feet tall.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
like, it's dancing and moving, and like, it's
Wow.
like answering to the drums and the music, and it goes on for like 10 minutes, and then the music starts to die down, and it just goes like flat.
That's
And
amazing.
nobody seems to be scared.
Wow.
I'm just like
Well, that
having a heart, like, how is that even possible?
yeah, that sounds like it. I wonder if it's related to the power of sound itself is helping create the vibrations of the sound and the singing and the I just thought. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's only, like, a few people drumming, so I would have to be a lot.
Hmm.
And the way it was moving, I mean, it's not it's
Right. It's
swaying
dancing.
and
Wow.
yeah, and it dipped over, like, it had a waist too, like a 9-foot man with a waist, and it's just
Oh,
oh,
wow. Yeah, I would like to see that. That's
if
amazing.
I find that video, we'll watch it in the next I'll put a
Okay.
screen share, and we'll watch it,
Okay.
all of us.
That's wild. Yeah. I think that Western culture is so locked into the linear mind and how things happen from a very scientific point of view that we other cultures are just more open to the mystical
Yeah,
and what can happen in the mystical realm and what we are connected to. But if you don't believe it, then it's going to be hard for you to have moments that you actually get to see that. Yeah. We need to be more open to that. It's fun. That's the fun. That's to me, that's like the juice in life where you're connected in that way and you feel and see things that you would not normally see in your everyday life. I love that. That's
yeah.
what I'm live for that.
I don't know if
Like,
I don't know if I have the patience though, like, at this
Yeah.
point, my I did when I was younger. I have less patience now than I did when I was
Yeah,
younger, but
well,
do I really wanna see a table tip after, like, 3 years? I don't know.
oh, you know what? No, I think that what if you watch the skull experiments, it's more than just tables moving. It's like
Okay.
it's crazy. You got to check it out. It's crazy phenomenon. But you need to sit and wait for stuff to happen. Not wait for it to happen, but have the intention of like, okay, I'm calling in spirit, or which actually is source,
Yeah.
divine, and connecting with that, and then just go from there. Yeah, and just see what happens. But I think part of it, this, which is interesting, is this, and this we can go into the cities from here because if your goal is to just see some wild stuff happening, this is
Yeah.
not a good goal. This is like, you can go get high and take some
Right.
psychedelics and see some weird stuff. It has, I think that really the reason why we're moving on to we are on this path, at least for me, is towards enlightenment or self-realization, or just to really grow your consciousness. And when you get caught up in all of this stuff, what can happen is you can really get caught up in your ego, which is a
Yeah.
huge distraction from where you really want to go. So it's a little like, oh, wait, because my thing is, my whole thing, I love psychic work. I love and healing work and becoming more and more psychic. And it's been my driving force of getting into this kind of work is like, how can I be more psychic? How can I control it? Because I had a lot of wild experiences, but how can I just have them without
Yeah.
it just being random? Even though some of them are just phenomenal, but I don't want random. I want like more on demand, I guess. So
Yes.
on demand. And so how do you get into that space where that can happen? So you don't want to get too caught up in just being psychic, because then
Right.
you lose the focus of the journey. And the focus of the journey is actually just to grow your consciousness, your awareness, and to be more of who you really are, which is connected to your soul, connected to your higher self, connected to the source, the
Yeah.
divine, and walk in that and really hold that space and be that on your journey. These things you can get caught up in is like they say about the Siddhis. We'll segue into that. That it's the same thing. So the Siddhis are powers, like supernatural powers, which actually they're not supernatural. You're supposed to have them, but that's part of growing your consciousness, that you do at some level start acquiring these things. But if they say that whoever they is, that when you start acquiring the siddhis, these powers, excuse me, a lot of people will start really looking at these people as masters who are enlightened. And just because you have a supernatural power does not mean that you're enlightened at all.
Yeah.
And that's my point there. It's actually just somebody who has acquired these, and probably through some past lives too. And so it's easy
Mhm.
for them to connect to in this lifetime to those same powers. Anyway, and so what are siddhis? They're supernatural powers. What do you have to do you want to share anything with that before we really fully dive into that?
Well, first of all, how do you spell cities? Because, like, I was trying to look it up the other day because there is a book, the book that you just ordered. I was telling Lorena, I
Right.
had a friend that told me about this book called Master Zong. She's a living master right now, still alive, but she's Chinese, and since she was little, I mean, I forgot when she was born, they said there was a dragon spirit that came in the room through the window. So, like,
Uh-huh.
it was a good omen. It was like
Mhm.
this rare blessing and stuff, but she's able to see into your body, tell you where you're blocked with your she
Mhm.
can pull herbal remedies out of the air
Uh-huh.
given to her by the healing Buddha and Kuan Yin. I know her
Okay.
two that work with her. But I was trying to look up cities, and for some reason, I was like, "I don't know how to spell it."
Okay, I
It's
can
not
correct.
like okay.
It's SID. His, Siddhis.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
And also in the cities there, you could be called a city and be one, or you can have Siddhis. So there's two definitions there for that. Just saying.
Okay.
And some of the powers are telekinesis, which you can make objects move, which happens in some of these spirit circles. But they don't say they're doing it. I think that they're saying that spirits are coming in and doing that.
Okay.
Telepathy, mind to mind communication. But also, I think it's more than that. It's because sometimes when you have mind to mind communication, you're actually, it's not just mind to mind communication, it's information. I think that's when a lot of people say they have downloads now. That could be a mind to mind communication. You're getting information and you may be seeing it too while it's coming in. Because I have definitely had instances where I see information coming in and I actually can see it
Okay.
like thoughts in writing or actions. That's That's those are types of telecommunication, telepathy. There's levitation, and you saw some guy who was there's some YouTube guy that has there's some levitation stuff happening out there. But let me just go
Yeah.
through all of these and then we can get into it.
Okay.
Levitation, bilocation. Bilocation, when we talk about bilocation, like true bilocation is like somebody leaves their body, leaves their body. So their body looks like it's actually dead and they're somewhere else, like at a different location, looking incredibly physical somewhere else. It could be 200 miles away. It could be 1,000 miles away. And then they come back and go back into their body. So they are literally they in a physical, they look like they're in a physical reality somewhere else. And people can,
Oh,
yeah, they look physical. So that's true. That is true bilocation and they look dead. So they actually, usually when they're going to do it, they have somebody watching over their body.
that's so they don't declare them dead or
Yes,
like,
exactly. So,
oh,
or to
wow.
not mess with it.
Okay.
So that's way different than astral projection. Way different. So,
Yeah.
okay. Pyrokinesis is where
Okay.
they create fire or they can heat up their body, incredible temperatures. They can make their body very heavy. All psychic abilities are part of the Siddhis. So,
Oh,
what they,
interesting.
yeah, they can make the body very small, as actually, from what I read, tiny as an atom. So, I guess you would just disappear. And these are considered divine attainments. And healing. Healing is also a siddhi, but there's also some words like people, I forgot what it's called. It has a very kandanta, where actually, some of these masters can chop off a body part, their own body part, and do some weird stuff with it. I don't know what they're doing. And then put it back on. And also, one more thing, bringing back to life what you were saying. Yes, you have something to say about that. But
Oh, well, never.
necromancy, actually bringing, like somebody dies, you can bring their spirit back into their body. Sort of like, hey, that's what Jesus did. That's the Lazarus story. That is a siddhi too. Anyway, that's what these are all also called divine attainments. So, and you acquire these on the path to enlightenment, but you can't get lost in them. You have to, you want, it's your path to enlightenment, or maybe even ascension, like getting the rainbow body and ascending. And
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Okay.
yeah.
Huh. So probably not maybe like identifying with it too much and like then becoming like a guru or and then like being like, I'm so amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, getting caught up in the power of the thing. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah. So you
Mm.
use them to help, but to not get caught up in them.
Yeah.
That's like life, isn't it? That's it.
Yeah.
Don't get caught up in it. Yeah. Anyway, so what? Oh, and I do have one thing about levitation.
Uh-huh.
I my best friend, she said she levitated once. Now she was by herself, so I can't tell you. But yeah, she said for sure she did. So hey. levitation and TM, like the transcendental movement, meditation
Yeah.
movement, they work on levitation on a regular basis as part of that. But really, if you watch them, they're just hopping. There are some videos out on them, like, so they're sitting cross-legged on the floor, like doing this hopping. But they call it levitation. But if you ask me, it's hopping. But you can look and see it. To me, that's not true levitation, but they're really
Yeah.
trying. There is a lot of benefit to TM. I'm going to say that too. But I am making
Yeah.
fun of them because they're hopping and they're calling it levitation. Anyway,
Oh my god.
you got to check it out.
I haven't seen that, but I just shared that
Uh-huh.
video. I wish I knew his name. His name is Ernst. I can't remember something with the V.
Yeah.
Ernst.
Yeah.
He's Eastern European, but I've watched a few. Like I was just going through, I saw it showed up in my feed, and I went to his webpage. He sells classes and levitation, entity removal, telekinesis,
Mhm.
few like a occult powers. Am I
Uh-huh.
saying that wrong? Right. And I his levitation videos with his students are at first you're like, this has got to be cinema. This has to be. But
Yeah.
I told Lorena, I noticed they're all doing it in nature and near a either in the woods or near a body of water, like a lake. So I don't know if they're like, I'm trying to figure out how it happens. Like,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Mhm. Huh. Well,
so
yeah, is it really happening?
yeah,
Yeah. Or is it a fake? Because magicians, as we know, they're
right.
really good at making things appear and disappear and levitate and all sorts of interesting things. And it's all a
Yeah.
show. So what's real, what's not real. And I did look at a little bit at that guy you're talking about, and I don't remember his name. I have to go back and try and find it. But yeah, it looks like he's levitating. So I'm going to investigate that further.
This is me a little bit. There's a few of his students that like record videos
Hmm.
and then they take like a pole
Hmm.
and they're like slowly moving it underneath their feet and behind their like to show you there's no
Hmm.
strings on their bodies.
Yeah.
One guy's really good. Most people only get like a maybe a foot or two off the ground.
Hmm.
But there was one guy, he's on like a bridge or something. He's overlooking a small lake, and above these people canoeing,
Wow.
and the people are just like,
I,
looking up in the air. And I was like, is he falling off at this point?
I need to check that out. I want to watch that. That's really interesting.
But if I was gonna levitate, that's how I'd wanna levitate like that. Go home or go big or go home, but
Yeah, right. And I do want to say that there are some masters from these are like Tai Chi master, Qigong masters, more Eastern people who've really worked with a lot of energy for many years who can do things that are pretty extraordinary.
yeah.
So they've been working on it. So, and there are some people who can do telekinesis, move objects. And there is some Russian woman who's really good at it. 'Cause I was really exploring this for a while, who could move things. And there was some other guy, but they both, what's interesting is they both died pretty young. And the
Oh,
assumption was made that it's because these energies that they're working with and how they have to use their physical bodies to use the energy to do these things that they died early because that was part of their vital life force and they didn't. I guess, or
maybe.
maybe they don't know how to regenerate the vital life force, so they end up dying early because they're using these energies. But I've seen some of the videos, and it's been too long since I've looked it up. But I think one of them was a Russian woman who actually could move things, move objects. So, yeah, it's definitely all this stuff is really fun and worth investigating. Yeah.
There probably has to be I was telling Lorena too, there has to be some kind of like because Master Zong said, this woman I was telling you about with
Mhm.
the herbal remedies, that these cities are a gift from nature.
Oh,
And so I wonder if there's like they're not using their own chi for
yeah.
it. So I wonder if you develop the abilities without that relationship to nature, you're gonna using your own source energy. I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's interesting because this work that I'm doing right now, definitely part of the process is doing the 5 elements and working with them and cultivating that energy. And it does help you feel stronger, I have to say. But you also go through a lot of your own purification process, which is not easy. It's just
Yeah.
all your stuff comes up and out. It's, yeah, that you get to do.
I'm guessing too, even if you're working on the elements, because we all have like not deficiencies, but like we all are expressions of a mixture of these, we call
Yeah.
it constitution, right? There's your constitution. Some of us are more earth, some of us are, and then less this or that. But I wonder if you get to like the element maybe that isn't as big of a constitution in your makeup, and that one's hard to work with or like brings up a lot more. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Or there's where there's more of an imbalance or you need this needs to be stronger in this whether
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It makes sense because we're on the earth. We are those elements. The physical body is are those elements,
Right.
5 elements. So yeah, it's really interesting. It's fun to explore all this stuff. So do you have anything to say about any of those things? By location? Yeah.
I mean, don't have any. I was just telling Lorena, like, I just had like a Hellenistic astrology reading a couple months ago. And the woman that was reading it started talking about, she looks at charts in an interesting way. And she started talking about how she's like, oh, I haven't seen this except for one other person. But she said that I have a past life gift and one that's carried over of like necromancy. And you hear that word and you're like, what? Like, that sounds creepy, it's just whatever, but
Yes.
I should say something did happen. I think I told you this story a couple months ago. My mom no, it wasn't a couple months ago, it was at the end of January, she collapsed in the kitchen, and I felt it coming, and I caught her, and her blood pressure had plummeted bad. I mean, and she was seizing and turning gray, and so anyways, like, she was leaving her body, like, and having an experience with the spirits of them having a conversation with her, so she was a little bit outside her body with her family members who have passed on, and she was saying, like, I'm so tired, I don't wanna go," like, she was mumbling it, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm watching my mom pass," right? And, like, so I went and I pulled my acupuncture needles out, like, I was using these points to call her spirit back in her body because we have those. I'm jamming them here and putting it at the top of her head. It's just doing all this stuff,
Wow.
and what's interesting is when I did it, her chi wasn't in her I didn't feel her chi in her body, which was scary. Like, I felt like I was working with nothing, like, when I put it in. So I was freaking out silently, the ambulance was on its way, and then she was, like, not talking for a couple minutes, and then all of a sudden she said to me, "Kimmy, Kimmy, I need you." And I was like, "Why?" She goes, "They told me I have to ask you to stay. I have to ask you to stay." And I was like, "Well, what you yes, of course I want you to, like, stay," you know? And I'm, like, using all my energy to, like, connect with her spirit and her body, and then, like, the ambulance had gotten here, and she started to get better. She started to come back. But I talked to her a little bit about that, and she says that her uncle, who was her favorite, who had passed, had told her, "You need to ask your daughter to stay,"
Mm.
and she has to say yes.
Mhm.
It's really and then so it's just really like, something happened? Did I do something? Like, did, like, I pull in that, like, city in that moment to help
Yeah.
her not pass on? I don't know,
Wow. That's wild.
but that's the only time I can say that might have played out, if there is a city inside of me,
Uh-huh.
the necroman. I don't know.
Well, and I think we have all of them, but some are probably more pronounced and stuff. So to really start working on those, but
Yeah.
conscious, towards consciousness, and there are a series of books. It's a 6-part series.
Mhm.
The Life and Times of the Masters of the East. It's
Okay.
an old book. It was written like in 1908 or something. I mean, a long time ago. So a lot of the writing is, I don't know, just different than today. So it might seem a little boring or tedious to get through. But this
Yeah.
guy went to the East and he met all these masters. And some of the things that they could do was phenomenal. And like leaving the body, like for a couple of days, leaving the body, and they're somewhere else
Wow.
300 miles away. And then they come back and they have someone watch the body again. And what was one of the ones that was really interesting? Oh, aging. Yes. Like some of these people were 500 years old, at least that's what they said, but they look like they're 30. And you know
Yeah.
what? And I know somebody here in Phoenix who said that one of the guys that he works with, one of his teachers, guides, who is a physical human,
Okay.
he is up in Sedona area. So every once in a while he'll go up there and he'll run into him. And I'm sure not random. It's like the guy will know that he's going to be there. And so he shows up. But he looks different ages when he sees them. So sometimes he looks
Really?
older, sometimes he looks really young. And I mean not by like 10 years, like
Yeah.
a 30-year age span type of thing. So that's what I forgot. That's one of the
What?
abilities to manipulate your physical body so that you can look whatever age you want.
Wow.
Well, that's nice.
Well, it kinda do you feel like okay, so these things are now more of like a path to enlightenment or however but, like, if you listen to someone like I mean, use Darius as an
Yeah.
example. If you look at our true history,
Mhm.
who we were really constructed to be before certain events happened, whether it's Atlantis or whatever, the Orions or whatever the
Yeah.
whole stories are,
Yeah.
the Anunnaki.
Yeah. Well, really.
That was
Mhm.
yeah, who knows if that really happened, but I do feel like those were our normal that was our normal reality. Like, those things were not really enlightenment, it's like we're just trying to get our way back to what we used to be able to do
Yeah.
as a fully 12-strand DNA human.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, no, I agree. I think you're right. I think that's what we were. We have all had that. And that's what we all want to get back to who we really are and our real powers. I totally believe that. Yeah, that makes sense to me. When I was a kid, I remember like being a little kid, you're laying in the back seat of the car and looking at night at the lights, like the street lights and stuff, and looking at all the, you can really see all the streams of light at night coming off of the street lights. I remember thinking all the time, well, why can't I see that with people? I should be able to see that with people. I can see it when I look at the lights, but I should be able to see it when I look at people. How come I can't see that? That doesn't, like, it didn't make sense to me. Like, there's a part of me that
Right.
remembers being able to see that all the time. Um,
Yeah.
and I do see that sometimes, but not like I think that we used to. Like, you can really see people's full on streams of light all around them. Yeah, where you really do see their energy body and not just
Right.
this physical body.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we do this work. Chugging along, getting back to that space where we all have those abilities. Now, you have to want to attain that. I mean, there's a lot of people who just they want to go out to dinner and go to a movie and just hang out with their friends and loved ones and just, and that's is what's important to them,
Right.
which is lovely. That is lovely. But to me,
That's a choice.
yeah. What was that?
That's a choice, I
Yeah,
mean, and that could be the path, you know.
yes, that's yeah. So I've always been driven for like I think because I just had so many mystical experiences that I have to explore that. So I have
Yeah.
that's my driving force in life actually. Exploration and growing that. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. And it's fun. It's fun. It's really cool. It could be scary sometimes, but hey, that's okay. We got to
Yeah.
face those scary things too, because that's a part of life too. Yeah. Anyway. It's not all love and light. There's so much more.
No.
So much. Yes, it's a big world. There's so much there to explore. And it's
If
in,
you will.
yeah, and into the mystic. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, do you have anything else to say? I feel like I'm taking most of the conversation.
Oh, no, not at all. I was just thinking you were talking about it's not all love and light. It's like, you ever seen those memes that are like, you go on your healing journey and you think it's gonna be this beautiful, like, zen, like, experience, and then they show what it like, this is what it's really like, and it's like somebody rocking themselves going, "Oh my gosh," like, going crazy
Yeah, yeah, the dark.
because 'cause they're realizing what reality
Oh my
really
God,
is,
there's some.
who they really
Yeah,
are.
we all have that dark stuff inside of us that we have to like bring to the light. Some of
Yeah.
it's scary. Some of it's really painful or uncomfortable, but that's part of the journey too.
Yeah.
But it,
I don't know, it was partially the shadow stuff, but then it's partially, like, you think everything is just, like, you in this reality becoming happier. Like, it's not like you realize that reality is gonna change of how things work.
no,
Like,
no,
the bigger
no, you still, yeah, I still have to go online and pay my bills. I have to. The reality, I still can get annoyed with somebody who's driving their car in a way that I don't appreciate. Putting it nicely, that's still there. But at some point, it doesn't bug you as much. Still got to take care of those things, but it's like it'll roll off of you because that's just where they are, and that's where you are. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a misconception about that, definitely. Yeah, because we're still here. So,
I think that's why in a lot of ways I don't practice acupuncture anymore is because it was set up to be like, you I remember somebody, like, they have a different way of looking, and again, this is communist reformatted TCM. It's not like, I think, the way things were shamanically, but it's this whole idea of, like, you come, you lay, you get the nice music, you get the needles, and then everything just is better, and it's like, I never quite fit into that whole
uh-huh.
paradigm. 'Cause then again, somebody else is doing it for
Yeah,
you, right? Somebody else, that's where's your power in
yeah.
that?
Still, yeah, there's still
Yeah.
your work that you have to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's, yeah, the path to
Yeah.
enlightenment. It's like self-reflection. And even like sitting in the power. That's like getting to know who you are. Like just sitting and being quiet and finding out who you are and feeling it. A lot of people have a hard time with that. You have to feel
Well,
it.
for me, like, I don't know about you, but even, like, I know I need to do it more and more, probably at least an hour or 2 a day if I really, really wanna go bigger
Mhm.
distances. But, like, I'm realizing there's a lot of trust in that slowing down because you're gonna take a huge chunk of time to just sit. When, like, your programming is like, "But I have so much to do, A, and then B, I need to do things to make things happen," and it's like, you don't trust that yin process of sitting there, creating those connections, and then also, there's a huge creative process in sitting there and also taking the time to imagine what it is you want, right? And then trusting that you'll get it without having to go like this, the pavement.
Yeah, major action. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's, yeah. You said it well. You said it very well.
That's my block. I should have shared with you guys what my block is.
Oh, wait.
It's trust with the feminine, the yin, to sit quietly. I see that as a yin
Yeah,
process,
that
but
makes sense. Well, I lived in New York for
yeah.
20 years. Like, do it and and kill it. Which I hate that saying, but like that dominate it. How look at the world. How does that really work? We need to do things differently, that not just dominate things. Just, yeah, to sit with the self and be quiet. Yeah. Somebody, one of the YouTube comments that if I realized that if I meditated 2 hours every day, that I could do this and this. Well, and what I thought, and I haven't responded yet, is if we all sat and meditated for 2 hours every day, I mean, everybody, the world would be a different place.
Yeah.
Everyone would be a lot calmer and not so aggressive. So, yeah, more meditation. boring.
We'd all be walking around knowing who our spirit guides and our ancestral
Yeah.
protectors were at that point.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I see you brought your spirit guide with you. It's like,
Yeah.
it's really cool.
I see the color of your aura today.
Well, that's fun. Yeah. If we all took the time to do that, really stop, do some breath work, meditate, even for just like 20 minutes, life would be different, would better, actually. Yeah. And that's why
Yeah.
back to TM, transcendental meditation, why it was so powerful when it first came out. People were meditating 20 minutes, 2 times a day. And I've known people who've gone through that process like in the last couple of years, and it does change them. They're calmer and they actually are so much better at aligning with what they want and getting it. So there's something
Right.
to be
So,
said about meditation. It is powerful. Yeah.
well, probably I mean, I always try to look at everything like the left and right brain. That probably changes your brain
Mhm.
in general, your neuroplasticity. But then, and then B, like that spiritual connection, like Jurgen Ziwa.
Mhm.
Is I hope I say his name right,
Yeah.
that little German artist.
Yeah.
He was in the TM movement with Tom Mr. Big
Oh, yeah.
Toe. Who's that?
Tom Campbell. Yes, he did
Tom
TM
Campbell.
too. And it really,
They had like
Monroe Institute, it took him to all different horizons. Yeah.
yeah, and Jurgen too. Like I don't really like connect with Tom. He feels a little bit too scientific for me and cold. Like everything is this or that.
Yeah.
Or Jurgen, the way he is, he approaches everything with like the heart and eyes of like an inner child. His inner child
And
is
he's
so
an
present.
artist. He is an artist.
Yeah,
That's probably why.
yeah. But like, I mean, it launched them into like complete astral journeys while they were just in meditation,
Yeah.
like traveling to see like dead relatives and being as present, like and as like with them in person, but also knowing their body was back there meditating.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's so wild.
So the moral to the
Yeah.
story is meditate. Change your life, change the world. Can start with
Yeah.
meditation, sitting in development circles and or a journey towards our journey towards enlightenment or ascension or whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing.
Yes.
So worthy pursuits. Definitely. Yeah. And you know what? When
What
this is what I discovered over the last couple of years. The more breath work that I did and the more meditation,
breath work.
both breath work and meditation, because I would do them together. I do them together usually. But that your mind is so much clearer and sharper. You're smarter. It's really nice. I mean, it's like, wow, everything's working really well up here. It's awesome. It really is. Yeah. Not even talking about all the psychic gifts, just things just work better. Yeah. Anyway,
Oh,
that's my experience.
well, that's cool. You might have to. It might give me a little kick in the pants to go do some breath work
Mhm.
too.
Yeah. It's definitely worth it. All right. I think we're done. Are we done talking about this stuff? It's been good. All right. So remember to like, subscribe, please share these videos, and I hope you enjoy it. And always fun to get on here and talk with Kimmie. Really appreciate it.
And likewise with
Yeah.
Lorina and all of you too.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great day wherever you are.
Bye, everybody. Till next
Till
time.
next time.
Bye.